Assalamu alaikum. All right, thank you guys all for coming out. It's so nice to see so many beautiful faces here. We'll start with the dua. So, Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Allahumma a'lamna ma yanfa'ana wa anfa'na bima 'allamtana innaka sami'un mujib ad-du'a. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min 'ilmin la yanfa' wa qalbin la yakhsha wa nafsin la tashba' wa du'an la yasma'. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. All right, so today's topic is about hijab. I know this is a very big topic, so it's very hard to keep it condensed, but I'm going to try my best to keep it very short and cover the most important points. So I titled today's lecture, or halaqa, Crowned in Confidence, which is about owning your hijab and owning your power. And I am going to start with a very, very controversial image, so brace yourselves. I want you guys to show me by a raise of hands how many of you have ever seen this picture. Okay, it looks like everybody is very familiar with this. And if you guys want to, you can come over here if it's hard to see. Okay, all right. I can already sense the controversy. I love it. Okay, so I want one of you to volunteer to tell me what you know about this picture and what it was meant to represent with regards to hijab. You want to tell us?
When a woman is covered, there's no flies on her, basically. But when no one wants a woman that's like exposed and like dresses however.
Very good. Okay. I am not going to tell you my thoughts on this picture just yet. I want you guys to give me your very honest, blunt response to this photo. The camera can only see me, so no one's going to know which one of you said what. I want you to tell me, what is your first initial reaction to seeing this?
I don't think women should be compared to lollipops or candy per se. But I get the meaning behind it, and I get why, parents, they would say...
Why they share this all over Facebook, yeah.
Exactly. I do think modesty, in a way, it does protect you from a lot of things. Mm-hmm. Flies, like...
Men, okay, aka men, right? Okay, yes, awesome. Any other thoughts? Anybody have similar thoughts, different thoughts? Yeah?
I honestly, I get there's controversy, but I kind of agree with it. I think it's in a way to explain to non-Muslims, especially in a simple term, kind of like what we're saying, without getting completely into it, being how men are supposed to lower their gaze, yes, but at the same time, we're supposed to protect,
Sure.
Flies are considered dirty, right? So in a way, the lollipop is protected. So I don't think it has to should a woman be compared to eye candy? Absolutely not. But in a way, the wrapper is protecting people more the hijab is protecting.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's all negative.
Sure. Absolutely. Any other thoughts? I think I saw a hand over here, right? Somebody? No? Okay. All right. Now I'll tell you my opinion. I personally don't like this photo. I am not a fan of it. And again, I understand your point of view, and we'll go into that. The reason I don't like this picture is because what I don't like about it is that it minimizes my hijab to strictly being a protection for men because they supposedly can't control themselves, right? This is only for the men. Of course, that's how you know the patriarchy is alive and well, because somehow they made our hijab only about them, okay? Now, of course, I'm going to be held accountable for everything I say here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask me. So we have to be honest, right? There is a component, or there is a part of hijab that, yes, protects you against zina, against haram. It's meant to create sort of a barrier for that. But this is the part that I feel like we should acknowledge first. So if we look at this slide on the left-hand side here, this is the very well-known ayah in Surah An-Nur, ayah 31. And this is the ayah that usually people reference to talk about hijab being a requirement in Islam. So this is the go-to ayah. And it's where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells women, put on your hijab, cover yourself with your veils, cover your chest, all of that, right? But what people don't seem to talk about is the ayah before it, which is right here, ayah 30, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is actually addressing the men. And he says, O Prophet, tell the believing men to lower their gaze and guard their chastity. So this is a two-party effort. Okay, when it comes to protection from zina and all of that, the women have been asked to cover, the men were told to lower their gaze. Okay, so this is not just my responsibility or your responsibility to protect these men from themselves. No, they also have a part to play. They have a responsibility. Okay, and so when it comes to protection, Allah understands. He created you and me. The men have temptation in that they are attracted to us beautiful ladies, and I can't say I blame them, right? And we have temptation that we want to be beautiful. We want to feel attractive. We want to feel pretty. Okay, so Allah said, all right, women, you cover yourselves. Men, you lower your gazes. So this is just to kind of address this part of hijab. Sure, it's a component, but it's not the only thing hijab is about. And again, it's not just us. The men are responsible for lowering their gazes as well. So now that we got that out of the way, okay, I'm going to hit you guys with the hard truth because we have to get it out of the way. And that is that the hijab is a requirement. It's a fard. It's an obligation, ladies. I know not everybody likes to hear that. Sometimes we like to hear loopholes and someone tell us, oh, it's not really a requirement. And shaitan will whisper to you through the people that you trust the most. Sometimes it'll be through friends. Sometimes it'll be through family. We already saw the ayah in the Quran, right? It's very clear as day that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said you need to cover. And people will say, well, Allah knows what's in my heart, right? He knows what I feel. He doesn't need my hijab. Yeah, well, Allah doesn't need your salah. He doesn't need your siyam. He doesn't need your hajj, your umrah. He doesn't need any of that, right? We know this. This is the argument as tale as old as time. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us to do these things. These are obligations in Islam. And part of being a Muslimah means you're submitting to who? You're submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And with that comes accepting everything Allah has asked of you, right? We talk about tawakkul and we have these super inspirational lectures about Allah's the best planner and putting all our faith in Allah. Well, part of that is accepting the deen as He presented it to us, right? And in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِبَعْضِ الْكِتَابِ وَتَكْفُرُونَ بِبَعْض, which basically means, are you going to believe in some of the book or some of this deen and deny or ignore other parts of it? You can't. We can't handpick how this religion is set up for us. But the way to get a different mindset around that is that whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has asked you to do, you should know and trust that it's good for you. We may not know the ins and outs and all of the details and all of the wisdom. Sometimes it's shared with us and sometimes it isn't. But we need to trust that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to ask us to do something that isn't good for us. So, with that, I understand that sometimes hijab is a struggle. Okay, it is totally fine if it is not your favorite thing to do. Everybody has a piece of worship that they're not comfortable with or that they don't love. For me, it's fasting. I'm gonna tell you, I hate it when I have to fast. I love my coffee, I love my water. I struggle every Ramadan, okay? But I do it because Allah asked me to. But if it was up to me, would I do it? No, it wouldn't be my choice. For some people, this is hijab. Some people just really don't love it. And that's totally fine. And actually, I would argue that if you struggle with hijab, if you put that hijab on every single day, and you really don't like doing it, but you do it, I would say your worship is much more sincere than most people, because you're literally only doing it for the sake of Allah. And when you do this, you are fighting your nafs. Your nafs wants you to look pretty. Your nafs wants you to get dolled up and get cute and go out. Totally understandable. You are fighting your nafs every day, so this is a jihad in the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you are getting rewarded every single time you step out in your hijab. So if you feel some type of way about it, I don't want you to think you're weird. I don't want you to think that there's something wrong with you or that there's anything wrong with your faith. 100% is totally normal, okay? And so let's just talk a little bit about what hijab entails, right? Hijab is, of course, covering your hair, your clothes, making sure you dress modestly, all that. But even more than that, it's also your behavior. It's how you carry yourself out in the world, right? It's how you behave with people, how you interact, your intellect, right? So when you step outside in your hijab, we all know this, we're visibly Muslim, right? It's very hard to miss. So when you do that, you are actually serving as an ambassador to this deen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put you in the position to be a representation of Islam in the world, okay? And I know it's a big ask, but it's something that you are fully capable of, and Allah knows that. So let's talk a little bit more about the struggles before we get into the good sides of hijab. So these are just a few common examples that I have personally seen that people struggle with hijab in the sense that they struggle to either put it on or keep it on. So some girls I know will take off hijab and say, and I actually had a friend that said this to me, she said, I'm taking off my hijab because my deen or my religion isn't up to par. I don't pray 5 times a day, I don't really fast. I'm gonna go fix myself first, and then I'll come back to the hijab, okay? And that was over 10 years ago. Do you guys think that she put her hijab back on? No, sadly. May Allah inshallah guide her back to hijab and guide all of us, inshallah, say ameen. It's hard, but let's look at it from a common sense point of view. When did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say that you need to put on hijab? When is the time frame that you're asked to put on hijab? When you hit puberty, right? So when you get your first period, which is average age. Give me some ages of when girls would get their period. 12, yeah, 11, right? How many 12-year-olds do you know that have perfected their deen? That are so ready. I haven't met one yet, subhanAllah, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a wisdom for choosing this time frame for you to put on hijab. My guess, I can't say I know all the ins and outs, but I would assume that because it gets harder as you grow older, right? It's harder to put it on when you're a teenager, when you're in high school, when you're in college, when you're an adult woman. But the key to understanding of this is that there's nobody who's ready to put on hijab. There's no one who's at the peak of their deen and then they're like, okay, now I'm going to top it off and put on hijab. If anything, hijab is your step or your gateway into perfecting your deen. That's the first commitment that you make to Allah, to say, you know what, Ya Allah, I'm choosing you over this dunya. I'm going to fight my nafs every day and I'm going to put this on. And with it, I'm going to try to improve. I'm going to try to improve my salah. I'm going to try to improve my behavior. I now feel more self-aware when I go out, that people can visibly see that I am a Muslimah. So I need to work a little bit harder to make sure that I develop my character. Because you don't want to be fake either. You don't want to go out into society and just be cute when we go out, but our character isn't good underneath. That's going to shine through, right? We need to work on ourselves to show what it means to be an exemplary Muslimah, right? The other reason I hear sometimes, and some of you, I think we're in the age group where some of you might be thinking about marriage or wanting to get married, right? And there's a lot of fitna out there. I mean, honestly, like, I'm in my 30s and I struggle. And I can't imagine growing up in your age group. Like, you guys are exposed to a lot of stuff. And it is really hard because the competition feels fierce and you're getting it from Muslims and non-Muslims, and it can feel really, really disheartening. I had friends growing up that took off their hijabs for the sake of getting married. They're like, okay, I'm not getting any guys. You know, the guys are either looking for the non-hijabis or they're running to the Jessicas and the Stacys and the Katies and they're not even looking my way, right? So I've had friends that took off their hijab for that. And I've had friends that did get engaged right after that. But I would ask you to think of it this way, all right? So when you were working on your nafs, you're fighting hard, you're trying to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're trying to be a good Muslimah, that guy didn't want you. But then when you took off your hijab and you followed the footsteps of shaitan and you did something that's displeasing to Allah, now he wants you. Why? Because you're cute? You've always been cute. It's not why I choose you. When you choose somebody for marriage, you're choosing a partner for life. So I would question what kind of a partner I'm getting when the foundation of our marriage is starting off with him encouraging me to do something I'm not supposed to do, rather than propelling me forward, rather than bringing me up. I want someone who's going to say, no, I value your hijab. You look beautiful in your hijab. I value you as a person, right? You're more than just your looks. And then the other one I hear some work, people get scared. They're like, I'm not going to get a job. You know, if I wear hijab, they might discriminate against me. I'm going to tell you, as a gal working in corporate America, I promise you, it's not true. It can happen, right? You're going to face some people that are racist. But do you want to work for them anyways? If they're going to discriminate against you for where you come from or what you believe in, do you really want to work there? Trust me, that would be toxic. You're not going to be happy. So you would rather be in an environment that welcomes you and appreciates you and says, no, you look like you'd be a great asset for our team, right? And so if that's not enough to make you feel, you know, solidified, there's a hadith, there's like various narrations of this hadith, but essentially the hadith is, "Man taraka shay'in lillah, awadallahu khayran min," which means whoever gives up something for the sake of Allah, Allah will give you something better. So when you give up and you fight this battle and you give up wanting to go out and look a certain way and you're doing this for Allah, you think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who's capable of anything, is not going to give you a good man? Right? He's not going to give you that job that you really want. He's going to give you a better job than the one you would have gotten if you weren't doing what you were supposed to do. You're going to get a job where you probably get paid more, the people will accept you more. Husband, girl, you're going to get the husband that lowered his gaze. You're going to get the guy that you can know and trust isn't out there looking at other women, just like he knows and trusts that you're not out there exposing yourself to everybody else in the world. Right? You're going to get that partner that when you have that beautiful intimacy and love, it is something that is just shared between you guys. And he's going to be the guy that's helping you raise up your deen, not the other way around. And that's the peak romance, right? That's where you want to be at in your partnership. So trust, Allah is capable of giving you whatever your heart desires. Don't think you're going to be held back because of your hijab. On the contrary, Allah promises you, if you choose to do what I ask of you, I promise to give you better than what you would have gotten if you chose not to, right? So I would say keep the hope. Keep this in your mind that Allah is capable of giving you everything your heart desires. Okay, now this is the mindset I want you to have about your hijab. Your hijab is your crown. Y'all are queens, okay? You come from a line of royalty, and who am I talking about when I say that? I'm talking about the wives, the daughters, and the women sahaba of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. These are the best women Allah created. And of course there's Asiyah radiallahu anha, I can't forget about her. But these are the peak women that Allah made. And you are coming from that line of women. Maybe you're not directly related, but you're coming from the same deen, the same background as these women. These women were smart, they were beautiful, they were strong. Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu anha was a scholar, right? She's one of the highest narrators of ahadith. We owe a lot of our teachings to her. The men scholars that studied after her, they studied her work, right? So these are peak women, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made you a descendant of these women. And your hijab is a badge of honor. It's elevation, ladies. You are not like the rest. And I know it can be hard because, like I said, we're visibly Muslim. But the way I want you to see that is that Allah actually picked you out of the crowd and said, I trust you to be the one to represent this deen out in the world. I know you're capable. And the way that you present this deen is what the world sees as Muslims. The guys are harder to tell. It's harder to tell if they're Muslim or not. So even if they do something really great out in public, most people won't associate it with Islam. But when you do something amazing, when you're sweet, when you're kind, when you're respectful, and people go, oh, that hijabi girl, she was so sweet. Or when I got coffee at that place, oh, she paid for my drink. They immediately clock that you're Muslim and they immediately associate you with this deen. That's just 100%. Allah chose you for this. It's a huge task, right? It's not easy, but you've been hand selected for it. And we talk about value. You ladies are up on a pedestal, right? And I'm not even going to talk about it from an Islamic framework. Let's talk about it from the way society views things. If I go into CVS, I can find these cheap, basic rings that are for $10, and they're out there. Anybody can grab them. They're just free for everybody to do whatever they want. But if I want a real diamond ring, I got to go to Zales or I got to go to Tiffany's, and they got a whole security guard at the door, and they've got all these fancy people in suits, and then there's these glass cases, and it's maybe bulletproof, I don't know, and then there's a key and a lock, and the associate has to get it, and sometimes they only let you look at one at a time. Why are they doing all that? Because that's a valuable item. That's expensive. You're not just going to waltz in here. Security is always looking at you like you're going to steal something. I'm relax. I'm not here to do that. But that's how valuable these things are. So even outside of Islam, even society recognizes that when something is precious, you protect it. You put barriers on it. You don't just leave it accessible for everybody in the world to get a glance at or to get near or get close to. Same thing with you ladies, right? Without getting too intense, at the end of the day, you're not free, right? You're not accessible for just anybody. I'm not eye candy for any man. My body, my beauty, that's not for everybody, and that's definitely not for free. Right? You are so much more than your looks. And in this world where, unfortunately, looks have become the main currency, it's a never-ending race. There are girls of your age that are getting plastic surgery now trying to keep up with the beauty standards. And they just keep moving the marker, right? It just keeps getting further and further away. They're never going to win. Because, again, looks are subjective, number one. And number two, we are more than just our looks. Everybody is beautiful in their own way. But you as a hijabi, there is a specific beauty that comes from you that only comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you walk out into the world, you stand out, not just because you have hijab on. Allah puts a nur inside of you, some kind of light. It's internal. It's something very, very divine. No one can put their finger on it. And I'm sure, without even saying, I'm sure plenty of you have had interactions with people where they're like, girl, I just don't know what it is about you. Your aura, your vibe, something about you is so beautiful. They think it's your hijab, but then they're like, no, it's something else. And it's something that beauty products cannot replicate. That is truly from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and only you have access to that, right? Allah put you up on a pedestal and said, girl, you are so much more valuable than all of this. So I want you guys to take that in and to recognize that what you're wearing on your head, it's more than just a scarf. You are full-blown wearing a crown that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put on your head. So I would ask, ladies, that you see your hijab as a way to elevate yourselves, right? And as a way to stand out in this world, and as a way to be more valuable. And when people look at you, they see more than just a pretty face. I mean, mashallah, all of y'all are gorgeous in your hijabs too. I don't even think it's working, to be honest. But y'all are so much more than just that, right? Everything that comes from you, your intelligence, your character, right? Just everything about you is so beautiful, and Allah made it that way on purpose. So I would ask that, whenever you're struggling, remember this is a crown, and don't you ever take off your crown for nobody. Nobody is worth that, you guys. Allah put you in a position of value. Do not step off your throne, okay? And that is my halaqah for the day. Thank you so much for listening. this looks. All right. Okay.